We like to think of Canada as the calm country, yeah? The polite sibling who never throws a fit. But in 1849, we burned our own parliament to the ground. Montreal, 1849. The air smelled of a blossoming spring, but also the acrid odor of smoke and gunpowder. The government had just passed something called the Rebellion Losses Bill, a law meant to heal the wounds from the uprisings of 1837 and 1838. It promised compensation for everyone who'd suffered losses, even the French Canadians who dared to rise up against British rule. Instead, it ripped us apart, because those British loyalists, the supposedly respectable citizens of Montreal, the lawyers and merchants and business people who ran the city, they lost their ever-loving minds over the idea of equality. They called it a betrayal of the British race. They said it rewarded sedition, that the French race had triumphed, and that the British race betrayed. So they rioted. They smashed windows, hurled stones, torched Parliament, and attacked French citizens in the streets. And when the flames rose high enough to light the night sky, they called it patriotism. And when the embers finally died out, Canada's capital had to move, because Montreal wasn't safe for democracy anymore. Yes, Montreal was the capital back then. And we talk about extremism like it's an American problem, as if Canada's immune. But our first act of political terrorism was homegrown, carried out by the same people we still romanticize as our founders. We've buried the story under a century of so-called politeness. We've lulled ourselves into believing political extremism is something that doesn't happen here. Like January 6th could never happen here. But Canada's first act of political terrorism was indeed homegrown. And now, 175 years later, we're hearing about active clubs training in public parks across Ontario, white supremacists calling themselves patriots, recruiting under the guise of fitness and brotherhood, building muscle, waiting for just the right spark, the right moment to strike. And people will say, relax, it's different here. Canadians don't do that. But maybe we just haven't had our rebellion losses bill yet. Not the kind that really challenges who's in control. Because history disagrees. The last time equality threatened the colonial order, they burned Parliament to the ground. And they tested the waters again in 2022 in Ottawa, taking a temperature, measuring the pulse of public opinion. If you think the Freedom Convoy was about mask mandates and vaccinations, you're either incredibly naive or willfully ignorant. It wasn't about masks or mandates. That was just the wrapping paper. Underneath it was about power, about testing how far they could go, about seeing if they could shake the foundations of a democratically elected government with Pierre waiting in the wings. And if reconciliation ever stops being symbolic, if it starts being real, if it starts shifting land, power, or history, are we so sure those old embers won't catch again? 1849 wasn't an anomaly. It was a warning, a glimpse of what happens when equality threatens entitlement and privilege. And the same kind of fear that burned Montreal still flickers just under the surface, waiting for a little oxygen. Canada's fire may have started in 1849. It just never went out. Peace, and if you're not already following me, you should. It's going to be a ride.